So this lesson is going to cover compound time signatures. Remember, you learned about simple time signatures, and in that case, we said the beats could be divided into groups of two. 2/8 notes, 2/16 notes, whatever. But always we divide the beats in half, and when we're counting, we count 1 and 2 and etc. Well, in compound time signatures, the beats are grouped in threes. Sometimes people get a little confused by compound time signatures, but there's really nothing to be confused about. So just pay close attention and you'll be fine. Remember, in simple, we count in twos, compound, threes. Let's take row, row, row your boat as an example. You can also find this example in your textbook. Here we have row, row, row your boat, written out in simple quadruple time. Simple meaning the beats are divided in twos, quadruple meaning it has 4 beats. Now, as you can see, this is very messy looking, but it does accurately depict how we perform row, row, row your boat. We go row, row, row your boat, gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Do you hear how even in these parts, gently down though, we have threes, gently down the stream. They're not divided evenly, it's not gently down the stream. So in a simple quadruple meter, we might write this whole thing out with indications of triplets throughout the music. But a simpler way to do this would be just to write it in compound time. Now, I've written row, row, row your boat in 12/8 time, which is a compound quadruple time signature. So now you can see I no longer need triplets because I have 3, 6, 9, 12, 8th notes per measure. They're just in groups of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. So each measure has 4 groups of 3/8 notes in it instead of 4 groups of 2/8 notes. So if 4/4 looks like this, (12/8) looks like this. As you can see, both of these have 4 large beats. So this is where people get confused, because I told you that the top number tells you how many beats there are per measure, and the bottom number tells you what kind of note you're counting. But now here I am saying we have 4 beats, when this clearly says 12 beats, and I'm telling you that we're counting groups of 3, when this clearly says 8th notes. So, to clarify, when you see a compound time signature, you'll notice that the top number is divisible by 3. So it will be 12, or 9, or 6, or 15. We don't consider 3 a compound time signature, but some other number that's a multiple of 3 on top. And the bottom number is actually telling you what the subdivision of the beat is. There's a reason for this. Really, 1 beat in 12/8 time would be the note value that's equal to 3/8 notes. What note value would that be? The note that's worth 3/8 notes. Well, a quarter note is worth 2/8 notes. We could add something to it to make it worth 3. Do you know what that is? A dot, right? We could add a dot to our quarter note. And that would be really what we're counting, dotted quarter notes. But there isn't a number for that. We wouldn't put 4 plus 8, right? That would be like the closest thing we could put for a time signature. And that wouldn't make any sense. Sometimes in more modern music, you actually might see a time signature that says this, but that's not very orthodox. More typically, we write 12/8, but as musicians we know 12/8 really means 4 groups of 3/8 notes. Why am I making such a big deal about this, you might wonder? Because if you're going to write a rhythm, it's not enough just to have 12/8 notes in the measure. They need to be grouped in 4 beats. And when you perform it, you want to feel the 4 beats. We'll come back to this, but let's talk about other kinds of compound time signatures. A compound time signature that's really useful in helping you to remember why we have them is 6/8 time. And that's because if you think that all you're doing is counting the eighth notes, there's no reason to have 6/8 time, right? Because 3/4 also has 6/8 notes. So why do we have 6/8 when we already have 3/4? Well, in 3/4, our measure is divided into 3 groups of 2/8 notes. And we would count 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. In 6/8, we have 2 groups of 3/8 notes. So we count 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So, do they sound the same? Hopefully not. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Versus 1, 2. 1, 2. They should sound different. You should be able to hear. This one sounds more like triplets all the time. This one is clearly divided into groups of 2. Now tell me, what would be a compound triple time signature? Well, you know your top number is going to be a number that's divisible by 3. And in 12/8, it was divisible by 4. We had 4 times 3, and that gave us 12. In our compound duple, we had 6/8. We had 2 times 3. That gave us 6. So what do you think the top number would be in a compound triple? Yes, it would be 9, right? 3 times 3. So a 9/8. And I keep using eighth notes. They're the most common. You could also have 6/4 or a 12/2 or 9/16 or whatever, but eighth notes are by far the most common in compound time. So in 9/8, you'd have 3 groups of 3/8 notes. That would be a measure of 9/8 time. Now, just like simple time signatures, it's not always the case that you're just going to have eighth notes all the time, because that would be very boring. You can have anything that adds up to 3/8 notes as a beat. So let's come up with some examples. You could have a dotted quarter. You could have an eighth note and a quarter, or a quarter and an eighth note. You could have 6 16th notes, an eighth note and 4 16th notes, or a dotted eighth, a 16th, and another eighth note. I could probably go on all day, but you should get used to recognizing these groupings, because when you look at compound time and music in compound time, you want to see these groupings of 3, these things that are commonly found in one beat of compound time.